Administration and Finance Committee will come to order. All four members, four of our five members are present. One member, Alderman Tenorio, is excused. And looking at our agenda, we have one joint item with A&F and Public Works. It's item 12, a request from the Director of Public Works to extend the temporary appointment of Don Mollison in the position of Electrical Superintendent.
So move approval.
We have a motion
Second.
from Alderman Weigel and a second from Alderman Lysick. And any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And then moving on to our committee agenda, item 13 is a resolution authorizing restructured payments on the remaining balance of a loan in original amount of approximately $3.4 million to Whitnell Summit.
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion from Alderman Lysick and a second from Alderman Weigel. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Weigel.
I think we all saw the letter from the attorney. So this is essentially going to make it interest only for a short period of time and then resume the regular payment schedule.
I'll look to Kale to say yes.
Yes.
Yes, and it's all related to the COVID pandemic and the issues related there. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 14 is a resolution authorizing settlement of remaining balance of a loan for original amount of $50,000 to Farmer's Wife. And
Move
that
for
was...
approval. Second.
We have a motion from Alderman Lysick, second from Alderman... No, that second was from Alderperson Keene. And any discussion? That's what we discussed with Kale at our last meeting, and Kale he is moving forward with that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And item 15, we in fact already acted on, so we don't need to act on item 15 tonight. And that moves us on to item 15A, a resolution amending the fee for ambulance services provided by the West Dallas Fire Department.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Alderperson Keene and a second from Alderman Lysick. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And then item 16, resolution to approve the policy as indicated there, the reduction in workforce plan.
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion from Alderman Lysick and a second from Alderman Weigel. And Rebecca, this is what you presented to us at our committee of the whole meeting, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I would like to. I just wanted to confirm a few items. So in the presentation, you said that you do approximately 11 employees did respond, that they had some interest potentially.
Correct.
Within those 11 employees that did respond, has their actual job titles been reviewed? If those employees' current titles or roles would be eligible to potentially eliminate or not refill, or is that still pretty new?
We haven't taken that next step I haven't talked with the department heads yet. My thought was if the council would approve that, then we would move on to that step and look at revisiting or reviewing their job titles and if those people would be eligible, and then perhaps reaching out to the other people that might have not submitted their names, that
Right.
maybe weren't aware or just didn't understand.
Right. I definitely understand that, especially with our deficit, that's important to look at items like this to become more efficient. My only hesitation here is I just don't want it to be, hey, you've worked for us 20 years, thanks for your dedication, and yeah, we're a little tight on money, we're gonna have to let you go. I hope that that's not the direction that this is going in. It doesn't appear that it is, but I just wanted to voice that that's somewhat of my concern when it comes to the elimination, especially at the retirement age. Yes, it could be 65, the city could be a little bit earlier depending on their age, but 55 might not exactly mean that they're ready to retire and give up their career because they enjoy it, or that's just what some of my concerns are within this.
Yeah, the person would have to agree. We're not going to be forcing anyone to take this program.
Okay, perfect.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. And item 17, resolution to consider funding $91,649 in grants from the established CDBG CV Small Business Restart Round 2 program.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion from Alderman Lysick and a second from Alderperson Keene. And can someone from development please tell us just a little bit about this before we vote? Thank you, Patrick.
Good evening, Alderman. This is the Community Development Block Grant, CV money or COVID money that we received, and the Common Council allocated $210,000 set aside to help small businesses during this pandemic crisis. In the first round that we did, the open application period, we did around 11 grants for a total of $65,000. This is the second round that we did in June, and based on those applications, we have $91,649 in grants that we can give out. We'll have around $48,000 or so left. There is one more that went to the wrong place in terms of an application that we'll have to address at the next council meeting, but we want to make certain that we help as many small businesses as we can. The whole premise of the program is to retain or create jobs. So before the businesses have received payment, I go and make sure that they're operating or that they filled out a form, they give their DUNS number, they're giving a W-9, making sure that they are up and running, and that's how they receive their check.
Any questions for Patrick or questions?
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Weigel.
So this 91K is for another round, or this is for?
This was the second round.
This is the applications you've already got in?
Already
This
have.
is essentially spoken for?
And they were also ones that were submitted in the first round that were between 1 and 4 employees. And because there was a little confusion, we did a second round, then we went from 1 up to 20 employees. So in this particular case, the ones that weren't funded and were eligible were moved into the round 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
And item 18, resolution authorizing Director of Development to enter into a landscape design architectural service contract for Burnham Point Park.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion from Alderman Weigel and a second from Alderman Lysick. Any discussion? All in favor? You know what, Patrick, you're standing already. Tell us about this too, please, because I think I know, and we know where Burnham Point Park is.
Sure, I stayed standing just in case there was a question.
Yeah.
The Burnham Point project was really important last year when we had the consultants come and organize a neighborhood event to get businesses and residents engaged within that area. Earlier this year, around June, we had another neighborhood meeting with the neighborhood and trying to look at what can happen in this particular area. So far, designs to help mitigate traffic, painting, bike lanes, etc., are part of the project, as well as there's a gravel lot that's owned by the city, and we're looking to the design and what can go there that would entice the neighborhood to come on out and use this, whether on a commercial basis or a recreational basis. So we did an RFP for consultants, and the panel selected Parkitecture. That group is familiar with our recreational study that was done in the city, and well familiar with the operations of the city, and the panel selected them and recommend the funding would be community development block grant funds.
Thank you, Patrick. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 19, resolution to consider funding the $5,500 in barricades and signage for the Active Streets Initiative.
Move for approval.
Motion from Alderman Lysick,
Second.
second from Alderman Weigel. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Weigel.
If I understand this correctly, this is for temporary placement of like Jersey barriers on the parkway, and that's in your district?
Yeah, that's right, and actually be is it a class 3 or a type 3 barricade? I forget what that is, but.
That's correct.
Yes, so we would be closing off to motor vehicle traffic parts of the Root River Parkway primarily, and the idea being that during COVID that folks can get out and recreate and have more fun, and this is a model that we're following from many other cities that have done this already. So residents, of course, would still be able to drive their vehicles on the street if they live on that street, obviously. It would be a road closed sign with that an individual would be able to drive around, but with an explanation also as to why the road is closed and is intended for pedestrian and exercise type traffic.
Yeah, City of Milwaukee has that in a couple places, and there's some on some other county parkways. Was this the leasing of the barricades or a purchase?
This is the purchase.
Okay, good.
And
I wanted to make sure that I'm a fan of us owning things rather than renting them repeatedly, so, okay. That was my ultimate question. Thank you.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And item 20 is a resolution approving 2019 open purchase order carryovers and multiple fund balance transfers and designations.
Move for approval.
Motion
Second.
from
Se-
Alderman Weigel, motion from Alderman Lysick, second from Alderman Weigel. Any discussion? Oh, Chris Moan's all ready to go. Thanks,
Right.
Chris, but no, I think we're okay.
Well, what, just, Mr. Chair,
Oh, no, you didn't.
I just want to know a ballpark on the total dollar amount we're talking about here.
Yeah, I tried.
She's
Chris.
here.
Thank you, Chris.
She stuck around for us.
I figured you would ask that, so that's why I came. So, yeah, the purpose of this item is to do two things. One is to kind of report out 2019 operations for you as a Finance Committee. We're working feverishly towards wrapping up an audit for 2019, and in order to do that, we need council action on some items too. So that's the second piece of this. So the first piece is, again, kind of that report out of operations, which is in the memo that was attached, which we don't have here, but I'm going to assume you've seen or have read or can refer to. The results of 2019 was effectively a net surplus of 1.8 million. That was identified during the 2020 CIP process. So as the 2020 CIP process moved along, the hope was a lot of those projects that were approved in the 2020 CIP would be funded from that source. That's effectively what's happening. So that's kind of the best summary I can give of operations for you. Again, there was specifically in the 2020 CIP, I believe the Public Works equipment purchases were earmarked to be funded with borrowing. This will fund that, so they don't need to be borrowed for in 2020. There was also a list of just kind of miscellaneous maintenance types of projects that were identified during the 2020 CIP process that the hope was there would be some carryover funds from 19 that can fund that. I can confirm that will be the case. And then at the end of 19, there were some expenditures that were, again, items that couldn't get into the 2020 budget that were able to be funded in late 19. So that's effectively what uses up that surplus. I can tell you that surplus mainly comes from having revenues come in over budget rather than departments underspending their budgets. That's kind of the appropriate funds in 2020 that will pay those. There's a list of carryovers, which again, that's effectively taking that carryover funding, that what I'm calling a surplus, and appropriates it to those 2020 CIP items. And then there's a fund transfer piece that requires your approval, and what that is in state statute and in the city's budget policy, it says the budget authority is at the department level. So if a department overspends its budget, it requires your approval to transfer funds, ideally from another budget or another department who has underspent theirs to cover that. So there's a list of 5 or so departments that were over budget in 2019. And that total was about 1.3 million. So there's a list of 7 departments of varying amounts that were over budget for 2019. That is largely covered by the Public Works Department, and then a handful of other kind of general government miscellaneous departments that are under budget for 2019. So again, it just requires your administrative approval. There's no accounting entry, there's no impact for it. It's just an authority of the funds were budgeted under one purpose and kind of used as, by another. So that's in there. And then an approval of some fund balance transfers. There's kind of a busy worksheet that kind of earmarks priorities for fund balance initiatives. Again, we try to, when we have a little bit of surplus, we try to squirrel that away for the long list of facilities and maintenance projects that I think you guys all know that we have. So the other thing I will point out that we made an effort to, again, kind of squirrel some money away for is there's a reserve for tax refunds. We've had some tax rescissions that we're going to need to fund in 2020 that weren't, probably known at the time that 2020 budget was put together. So from what little bit of surplus funds or carryover funds that we have, I'm trying to earmark those in 2020 to cover that. So that's kind of the item at hand.
Thank you.
Yeah, any further discussion? Okay, and Chris, you should apply to be our new finance director. Thank you, you can't say no. And
No one's mentioned it already.
on this item, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? The ayes have it. And item 21 is communication from the Director of Public Works regarding request to fill vacancies.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Yeah, we'll approve and place on file as it's a communication. And so, yeah, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And item 22 is a communication from the police chief with a request to fill part-time dispatcher.
Move to approve.
Second.
And so
And place on file.
motion to approve and place on file, again, because it's a communication, and we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And item 23, can I have a motion to place that on file?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion from Alderman Lysick and a second from Alderperson Keene. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, and then we'll go into closed session for item 24, and I will read us into closed session. For agenda item 24, the committee may convene in closed session pursuant to the provisions of Wisconsin Statute Section .9.851 F and G, Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, except where paragraph B applies, which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data, or involved in such problems or investigations, and conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is likely to become involved. The committee may reconvene in open session after the completion of closed session to consider the balance of the agenda.
Moving on to
Everyone's
closed
gone.
session.
Second.